Hey everyone, Coach Dan here. Just wanted to give a brief overview of my experience using Selkirk's brand new Project 008 line of paddles. And first and foremost, what are these 008s? This is Selkirk's new technology that they're implementing into paddles, the pure foam technology here. And that pure foam technology is, in essence, within the internal guts of the paddle, they've moved away from the hexagon plastic that's inside of these paddles that are prone to, let's say, breaking. And instead, they use a full sheet of foam here. Now, foam is one of those new things that's coming out this year for a lot of paddle manufacturers. Some companies are doing different things with what they do. But what Selkirk is doing is instead of doing things within the foam or popping holes or inserts within them, what they've done with the 008 line, and really just a great way of testing it, is they're just exploring at the different thicknesses. So they essentially are all using a single sheet of foam, but really the difference between the different lines that Selkirk's really looking at is really how thick the foam is and how it plays with these different paddles. So it's a great way to really just establish control, and hopefully they get good feedback for that. So when I first received these paddles, I actually first went with the Epic Shape 13 millimeter thickness. So between the 10, 13, and 16, I see most people using the 13. Most of the people are purchasing the 13 from me. And the one thing I like about the Epic Shape is that, first and foremost, this is their slightly wide body shape. I know Selkirk does have a much wider body shape called the S2, but for the 008, they decided not to produce that line. So this would be the wide body version of that. But the one great thing I like about this paddle, coming from the Power Air Epic, is the handle length actually is slightly longer. If I had the other Epic, I'd kind of show in comparison, but trust me on that. So that's what you get for this guy here. And with the wider body, you get a much nicer sweet spot there. With the Invikta, this is going to be your classic shape. A lot of the pros on tour are going to use this shape. Most of the people who I've seen around with a Selkirk paddle are usually using the shape. So it's your classic traditional paddle shape. The handle is it nicely does form a two-handed backhand, and you're going to get that nice extended paddle face to be able to hit those longer shots as needed. The new shape that actually came out with this line is this Tour 16 millimeter here, and a couple things you notice here. First and foremost, you have the curved edge here, so it's going to be slightly more aerodynamic, so when you do go for any sort of rolls, or it's going to give you that added spin just from the shape of the paddle. And another thing you're going to notice here is the handle. So notice that I have the 10 millimeter Invikta here. So this is that classic shape that that most people use. You can kind of see how the handle length is quite different. So for the Invikta, you have the body of the paddle kind of protruding out just a little bit more, but with the Tour, with that handle up, it's actually great for gripping that two-handed backhand for those who use it. The head shape at the top, just so you can see the comparison as well. You can see how it's slightly wider on the Invikta here because of that curved nature of it. So the Tour does seem like it has a smaller face in general, but ultimately what you're using the Tour for is really two things. One, you rely heavily on that two-handed backhand, but even then too, it's quite aerodynamic because of the new shape here. Besides that, those are the three shapes. So we looked at the foam technology, we looked at the difference between the shapes. Now, in terms of the thickness of the paddles, because that's really what Selkirk is doing here, the thickness is, I believe that the true foam does play well into just our understanding of how paddle technology works and how the playability works. So for example, you have the 16 millimeter, the thickest one here, compared to let's say the 10 millimeter. You can see the comparison there. you're gonna get a more plush feeling. It's gonna be slightly softer. You're gonna get more control with it. Also, the one thing to keep in mind, it is thicker, but thicker doesn't necessarily mean heavier. So even though it may be thicker, the way you want to think about it is, well, weight is distributed actually a lot more across the paddle. Because it's distributed a lot more, it may quote unquote feel lighter than, let's say, this 10 millimeter. So even though it's 10 millimeter, you think, oh, it's less material. But even though it's less material, which may equate to something that's lighter, unfortunately, actually, to me, when I use this 10 millimeter, it does feel actually quite hefty. It's a pretty muscular paddle, I guess you'd say. And one thing that I'm not getting off of this 10 millimeter is actually my backhand flicks and my rolls. Actually my two-handed backhands, I'm actually not able to generate that much with this. So even though this is a great paddle for me, I'm a very aggressive left side player, especially in mixed doubles. I love just taking care of the middle using this paddle. Unfortunately, you put one up my line on my backhand, it's not coming back very hard. It's a pretty soft feeling for some reason. But if I use the 16 millimeter, which is actually what I've been using more recently, I'm able to really just come in on those two-handed backhands when someone tries to sneak one up on my line there. Or if I'm playing right side, which, in men's doubles, I've been playing actually a bit more right this year. It's been great covering the middle with the 16 millimeter. So a couple things just in terms of the differences. So the 10 millimeter, as of now, you can only get this in the Invikta shape. For the 16 millimeter, as of now, you can only get it in the tour shape, so that hybrid curved shape. The 13 millimeter, which I think, like I said, most people have been using the 13 millimeters, you can get them in all three shapes. So the one I don't have with me right now is the tour 13 millimeter, but really you're gonna get something similar to the 16, but the ball's gonna come off of the surface a bit faster. You are going to get that difference. The 10 millimeter balls do come off quicker off the 10 millimeter. So like I said earlier, if you're an aggressive player, 10 millimeter is great. 16 millimeter for me has been good. I can generate my own power. Doesn't matter what paddle I use, I can generate my own power. But the one thing I like about the 16 for me personally is because I can generate my own power, just adapting my biomechanics to be able to plow through shots. This is great, especially with the added control from the thickness of the paddle. But the other thing too is with a lot of these power paddles that are coming up, if I'm using the 10 millimeter and I'm trying to counter, let's say, someone who does hit pretty hard with one of these power paddles that are coming out, it is a little bit harsher on my arm. I am getting older, so I am, my recovery is a little bit longer, so I am feeling some residual effects, some soreness, let's say, on the wrists, as well as slightly on my forearm, as well as I'm practicing, as I'm playing against younger players who are hitting harder at my club and everything. So it is what it is. But I've grown to really enjoy the 60 millimeter because that plushness actually allows me to really counter those really fast-paced balls quite well. So for me personally, this is my progression. I started with the Epic 13. I've really enjoyed it. Don't underestimate the wide body shape. It's actually something that I've really enjoyed using and really recommend this paddle actually over the Invikta as of now. But I've really enjoyed this one. I think it really takes advantage of that pure foam technology and really elevates it to the next level. If they had this Epic shape in 16, I think that would be the winner for me. But as of now, for me, it's going to be this tour shape. Just enjoying just the aerodynamicness of this. Selkirk did make these very light, and when you do purchase a 008, they do give you some tungsten. As you can see, I don't need to add anything to it. For me, I'm able to just control it, and for me, it's just great with, it really helps with hand speed. So with that, if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments. I can get to them as soon as I can. But I hope you enjoyed the video as I just give you a brief overview of my personal experience using the Project 008. Thanks for watching.